suddenly gave birth while she was sitting on the toilet of a moving train. But she fainted and the baby slipped through the toilet chute, falling straight onto the tracks as the train rolled away. When the woman finally woke up, she screamed for help, and her family members made the driver stop the train. They jumped off and ran back to look for the baby, who was eventually found alive and unharmed. She suddenly gave birth while she was sitting.
This filter is
He dug through the purse until he found his mom's credit card, secretly booking a ticket to Bali on a site that lets kids fly alone. You see, when his mom refused to take him, the 12-year-old decided to go by himself. And when he got there, he told security officers his mother was waiting for him outside. For the next few days, he rode bikes around the city and lounged in the hotel pools. But he was eventually spotted on a social media post, and his parents flew there to drag him back home. He dug through the jack screws were hand cranked beneath the buildings, and each one was turned at exactly the same time, raising the building with people still inside. Wooden supports were stacked beneath until it reached the new, higher street level, and brand new foundations were constructed as the building remained suspended. You see, the city was originally built on a swamp, meaning the streets were constantly flooded, and this caused disease to spread around the city, so they raised the buildings away from the swamp, and Chicago still sits on those foundations to this day. The jack screws were hand cranked beneath the buildings, and each one was turned at exactly the same. Thousands of dead mice wearing tiny cardboard parachutes were dropped over the jungle, and each one contained a small dose of Tylenol. You see, the jungle was full of invasive snakes, and they would slither into electrical wires, electrocuting themselves and causing massive power outages. But if they ate the mice, that tiny amount of Tylenol inside was enough to kill them. This cut down on the population and stopped the power outages. Thousands of dead mice. The magician pushes the ribbon inside of a fake thumb, and on the final push, he sticks it on the other hand. When he opens his hand again, same thing on the other side, making the ribbon reappear. And when you're distracted by the ribbon, he ditches the fake thumb in his pocket. The magician pushes.
This is $60,000. Let's pretend this equals Jeff Bezos' net worth of $186 billion. This is what Oprah's net worth would look like, $850. Gary Vee would have a whopping $50. Mr. Beast's pocket change coming in at around $18. A millionaire would have about 33 cents. And the average net worth of a 35-year-old would be one single penny. This is $60,000.
This is Buc-ee's. It's the largest gas station in the world. It was started back in the 80s by a guy named Beaver. I kid you not. He started this gas station south of Houston. It was kind of just small and dinky. It kind of just looked like any other gas station. He teamed up with a business partner, and together they opened about 20 of these little gas stations near Houston until 2003, when they decided that they wanted to shake things up a little bit. And they opened a store in Luling, Texas, which is next to San Antonio. This gas station was big. Around this time, they also started selling t-shirts and Buc-ee's merch and their famous beaver nuggets. And you could arguably say that around this time is when the Buc-ee's cult following started to cultivate. After 2003, they started opening many more of these big 50,000 square foot stores with hundreds of gas pumps. Eventually, they opened one up in Alabama and then Florida and Georgia. Now there's 40 plus of these stores across the nation. This is Buc-ee. The company opened their first store outside of Texas in Alabama, and within the first few weeks of being officially opened, they were sued. And this is why they were sued.
Buc-ee's gas prices there in Alabama are too low.
So apparently in Alabama, there was a law that was passed in 1984 that prohibits big retailers from selling gasoline to the public for less than it costs to buy, which makes sense for every other normal gas station. The difference with Buc-ee's is the vast majority of their profit comes from in-store sales. And when that's the case, a smart strategy is to lower the cost of your gas to get more people on the property, which in turn is going to get more people in the store, and they're going to be buying more of your beaver nuggets and Buc-ee's merch. And at the end of the day, that's what Buc-ee's does. Other big gas stations do this as well. But when you're up against smaller local gas stations, this is where it can really hurt their business. The company opened their first store outside of Texas
If you took out one of your bones and somehow molded it into a chunk about this big, you might think it would be completely crushed under the weight of a car. But human bones are actually made of a tough mix of minerals and a stretchy protein called collagen. And this makes them so strong that a single cubic inch can support the weight of nearly 5 standard cars. If you took out When you swallow food, it's supposed to go down your esophagus, which leads to your stomach. But there's this different route that leads to your lungs called the trachea, and the trachea sits right next to your esophagus. Now, when you swallow, the fleshy parts in your throat move over the trachea, so the food won't go down it. But sometimes, if you eat too fast, the fleshy parts of your throat don't do their job, and the food goes down your trachea, also known as the wrong pipe. When you swallow food, it's supposed—
All right, Mom, you gotta get—
If you lose your leg, the skin will close up over the stump and you'll be legless the rest of your life. This is true for almost all creatures, but there is an amphibian called an axolotl that does something different. You see, when this creature loses a limb, the wound quickly closes up to prevent infections. But shortly after, a mass of cells known as a blastema form at the injury. As these cells grow, they morph into bone, nerve, and skin cells. And over time, these cells entirely rebuild the creature's limb from the inside out. If you lose your leg, the skin will close up over the stump and you'll be legless the rest of your life. This is true for almost all creatures. Inserting Q-tips in your ear actually just pushes most of the earwax further in. This is so bad for you that even the Q-tip box says not to do it. But odds are you'll still use them even after watching this video. Why? Well, using Q-tips leads to what dermatologists refer to as the itch-scratch cycle. The more you use them, the more your ears itch. And the more your ears itch, the more you use them. Inserting Q-tips in your ear. If you shoot at a bar of solid gold, most people think the bullet would immediately be deflected. But gold is actually much softer than many other metals. When the bullet hits, would penetrate the surface, creating— When a sound enters your ear and hits the eardrum, it causes it to vibrate. These vibrations travel through this little hammer-like bone, which makes the sound louder. Then they reach a snail-shaped, fluid-filled organ with thousands of microscopic hairs. The vibrations cause the fluid in this organ to move around, and as it moves, the tiny hairs convert the motion into electrical signals. These signals are sent to the brain through a nerve, where finally they're interpreted into sounds. When the parasite enters through the gills and clamps onto the fish's tongue with sharp, strong claws. It then severs the blood vessels in the tongue, stopping blood flow, which causes it to die and eventually fall off. Once the tongue is gone, the parasite attaches itself to the remaining stub, becoming the fish's new tongue. As the fish eats, the parasite gets a share of the food, and this creepy thing stays there, living off the fish and acting as its tongue until the host dies. The parasite When you put a cartridge into a revolver, it fits into a hole on the cylinder, which is then pushed back into place. As the trigger is pulled, the cylinder rotates, positioning the cartridge in line with the barrel and the firing pin. The hammer, cocked and released by the trigger pull, hits the firing pin, which strikes the primer on the cartridge. This ignites the gunpowder, creating a rapid expansion of gases that propels the bullet forward through the barrel. You've probably noticed that when you shave hair on your body, it grows back thicker. But is this actually true? Well, when you shave, you're cutting the hair at the skin's surface where it's more. When you shave a hair, you slice it at the skin's surface, which means it almost immediately starts growing back. But if you use laser hair removal, the process becomes a.
Have you ever wondered what's on the inside of a Kit Kat bar? Well, they claim it's just a crisp wafer. But what they actually use to make it might surprise you. You see, some Kit Kats get broken while they're being made, and instead of throwing them out, the company crushes them up and adds sugar. And that's what's on the inside of a Kit Kat bar. It's literally crushed up Kit Kats. Have you ever wondered what's on the inside of a Kit Kat?
If you completely stopped brushing your hair, as it grew over time, it would naturally tangle. Now, these wouldn't be simple tangles that are easily brushed out. Instead, they would turn into a densely knotted up clump of hair. Gradually, these clumps would intertwine with themselves until they eventually compacted into a dreadlock. Left unattended, these locks will continue to grow, with some even being over 10 feet long. If you completely stopped brushing your hair, as it grew over They put the device on her grandma's finger because she wasn't feeling well. It pricked her skin, took a drop of blood, and scanned her fingerprint. Then it gave a number, 9.8. This was bad. You see, elderly people would take this new test. The lower numbers meant that you would die peacefully, maybe in your sleep years from now. But the high numbers, those meant a long, hard decline. So a pill was offered to those with high numbers. You would take it and pass peacefully in your sleep, skipping the years of anguish. They gave one to her grandma. Every night she'd sit at the kitchen table, pill in one hand, tea in the other. But she couldn't bring herself to take it. She felt okay. And over the next 6 months, her granddaughter noticed that nothing happened. So she started to do some research. She found some hidden files on the AI behind this test. She learned it had been altered. It wasn't predicting suffering. Insurance companies reprogrammed the AI to flag patients who would cost too much money as they aged. They weren't treating patients, they were eliminating expenses. She printed off her research and sped to her grandma's house to show her, but she couldn't find her. There was a staircase in the middle of the village that led straight into the sky with no end in sight. Twice a year, they held Ascension Day, where they chose a name out of a barrel. It was a great honor to be chosen. The villagers would beam with pride. His sister fixed his hair and gave him a tearful hug. She would see him again when she was chosen. The elder pressed on his chest and studied him for a moment. Then he stepped aside without a word. He climbed as the villagers cheered. But as she watched the cloud swallow him, something felt terribly wrong. Later that night, she snuck through the village and got to the base of the stairs. Climbing them without being chosen meant your name could never be called. If she did this, she might never see her brother again. But she couldn't shake the unease, so she started climbing. As the village disappeared below, the air got thinner and it was cold. She found a door. It opened with a groan. Inside was a long table with two strange figures at either end. One of the figures reached out and lifted the lid from the largest tray. She froze in disbelief. It was her brother, tied like a roast, an apple jammed in his mouth. His eyes were blinking. He was still alive. She turned to go get help, but the wind slammed the door shut. He got into his time machine and set the dial for ancient Rome. It landed with a loud crack. As it opened, he stepped out, and as the dust cleared, he realized he was right in the middle.
Once you get a taste for something different, different is all you'll live for. Trident. Try different.
Oh, hello there. I have a confession to make. I've been cheating on my board games.
Romulus, Remus, Romulus, Remus, Romulus, I'm one who commands, ruling all provinces in my empire. Build aqueducts and say my name's Augustus. It's the Pax Romana.
Nah, walk into the forum through the arch made of marble rock, Grand Uncle Caesar.
He got into his time machine and set the dial, leaving behind his watch. He ran the Roman army. A soldier grabbed his arm, but he managed to pull out of his grasp, leaving behind his watch. He ran back as a spear whizzed past his head. He punched his return coordinates. The machine landed in silence. As it opened, he saw nothing but gray skies and dead trees. Behind him was a city in ruins. A massive statue was half buried in the ash. It was an emperor, with one arm reaching out of the ground, and on the wrist was a watch. His watch. In the street ahead, he saw a crushed warhead casing, with his watch etched into its side. You see, the soldier had kept it that day. Roman engineers took it apart. They studied its gears, its strange metals, its hidden power. They cracked the battery. They discovered energy, built machines, and forged weapons far beyond their time. They advanced too far, too fast. He ran to the machine to go retrieve the watch, but the spear had torn a massive hole, meaning he was stuck in a timeline that never should have existed, all because of his watch. The gravedigger decided to open the casket just to take a quick peek inside. He was almost done digging the grave, and sometimes liked to see the face of the person he was about to bury. But what he saw made him fall back in shock. It was his face staring up from inside. Heart racing, he sprinted home to his wife, leaving the grave half dug. But when he got there, his wife looked at him with horror. She backed away, trembling, reaching for a knife behind her. He stepped forward and she screamed. He ran. He didn't know where else to go, so he returned to the graveyard. But now there were figures standing around the open casket. He crept closer. Their skin was gray, their heads swollen, and eyes were black and wide. One of them turned. It placed a hand on his shoulder. "You finished the mission, Zarthan. Great job as always." He couldn't move or speak, just frozen in confusion. The figure sighed. "You poor thing. You've been down here too long." She reached up and touched his cheek, slowly peeling, revealing the truth. His skin came away like fabric, and beneath it, he's one of them. He opened the package and pulled out a sleek-looking headset with no branding, only a QR code. He scanned it, downloaded the game, and hit launch. He hesitated for a moment, but decided to put on the headset. Immediate bright flashes filled his vision, a loud, deafening tone, then everything went black. He woke up on his floor, dying of thirst and hopelessly confused. His phone buzzed and he picked it up. 55 missed calls, hundreds of texts. He looked at the date, 2 days had gone by. He scrolled through the messages. Please turn yourself in. How could you? Why? His mom's message read, I still love you, but you have to go to the cops. One message included a video link. He clicked it. It was him, lighting a house on fire. He was committing multiple terrible crimes. But when he turned to get the headset, it was gone, along with his computer. Sirens approached. Red and blue flooded his room, heart beating out of his chest. His eyes caught the back door, and he decided to run.